Hola.
I don't think you have to read it. Yeah, I should have it, but I don't think we have to. Is that that's a, it's the same thing as here.
Oh, okay.
It's just blown up for Sanchez.
All right. 6 o'clock. Good evening. The time is now 6 p.m. and I hereby call the regular meeting of the Madera City Council to order. Alicia, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Garcia is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Mejia,
Here.
Councilmember Gallegos,
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Here.
Councilmember Montes,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Villegas.
Here.
Thank you, Alicia. We will now have an invocation by Council Member Evans.
Would you all please rise? John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son." And each one of us stand here today in recognition of our Heavenly Father, be it Allah, be it Mother Mary, whomever, we all stand in unity. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning, this afternoon, and this evening, thanking you for waking us up today, Father, thanking you for giving us the strength to carry on. Thanking you, Father, for the leadership that you have given each and every one of us. Father, we ask you to protect this city, to protect this country. There's so much chaos going on in the world, Father God. And we call upon you now, Father, to cover each and every one of us with the blood of your Son, Jesus Christ, placing that hedge of protection around us, allowing each one of us to do your will, Father. Stepping out on faith, we say thank you, we honor you, we give you all the praise and the glory. In your Son's precious name, Christ Jesus, amen.
Thank you, Councilwoman Evans. Will you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Remain standing, ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to the approval of the agenda. I will now ask staff if there are any changes to the agenda. Council members, do you have any comments or changes on the agenda?
I'll move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. The agenda is adopted. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but are not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to hold the comment until that item is called. Comments on items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on the matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. Do we have any public comment?
Yes. Si gusta sentarse aquí, there's chairs right here if they want to sit down.
Yeah. Si gustan sentarse, ahí sí, ahí hay espacio, por favor.
See.
Hello.
No.
My name is Anthony Duran. I attend Furman High School, and we're having a college and career day, and we'd like to invite the mayor to show up and support us. Can I give you guys the flyers? All right.
Yeah, you could. Hand it to Alicia, please.
Everything that's in here?
Yeah,
Okay.
all right, thank you so much.
Anthony, do you want to say a few words of what you're,
What we're doing?
yes,
So we're showing off colleges for like people who want to know what like seek further education for after high school, or even like other opportunities of what to do after high school. Like the military is going to be there, different colleges like Merced, Madera Community, just to show like off like different types of like I guess what you want to do after college, and everyone's welcomed.
I attended last year, it was very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Anthony, are you the only one representing Perman High?
I want to point, but
why don't you all stand up?
yeah, stand up.
There we go. Go ahead and stand up. And their advisor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, I've attended some of their career days or career fairs that they've had in the past, and I'll tell you that not only does the Madera Junior College come out, but also organizations. I've been invited as a guest speaker at times, and it's always a privilege for me to go out there and make sure that you reach out to all students at Madera Unified. So I'm very proud of you guys. I hope that this fair does come out successful as others, and I look forward to seeing some of my colleagues there as well. Thank you,
much
Anthony.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Next.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Rosa Hernández. Soy residente de esta ciudad de Madera y pues me voy a dirigir ante todos en mi lengua materna, que es el mixteco. Meku Rosa Hernández, tono kashi tsiwenira kusinchua ini yo nikitsayo. No, takitanti oyo tsiwemeni na chanchachu, wemeni na ko alcalde, meni na ko concejal. Tatsabegoni anzani y tiempo ya basintasia y tu uno weni. We yo basi cuenta na cosa y biko kano nyundo nya biko kano ya ku ya basia nyundo nya nani agela gexa nyo biko yora kungo nyu madera yo una sika yo la nya we basi cuenta sa we tu ora basi we kana weni tawana sa weni nya mane nan tu tondi oki una octubre tawasarana kusinjo ino nya inga na dakitara na ya tono inviko yon tawana kuni wemeni nditsi nishiwa viko kano ya weyo na batsi na tsikanta vinyo yo da nyagwi nyakano wi cuenta weme ya kitsi weni kisa da sa weni inya y tiempo da kitsi weni nanda koto dondi ovari nya cuenta wemera nya tono inviko ya nyakano chakwi vari nyontua ra santo kane kwesa koso ni vi sutane nantua kuto ndi sa weni vina ndi sa ni vina ye nya yivi yo sa kunche gela geksa yo nyontua ra sacho kwe no ndakita i grupo ni vina ye nyo madera yora datu kwe ni shiwa ku sa kwe i lucha ni shiwa sa kwe tawasara na nenche kwera kitsanya viko kano yo nyuyo ni kunanda kanini we asawa ra kweni ku manjakuya vichi sana nya sachungwe kenjo yo sachungwe tawa ku ko viko yo re nya kano ncho agui no wera sawa ni yamane nanda kita kisa tawana nya na kuni weni nji kwani shikwa ko viko lugaran nya kusini iniwe batsiwe kawe sini tawana sani yamane Saniki una octubre na conchato when nanta kita sanaka.
Gracias.
Good afternoon. My name is Minerva Mendoza. I'm a resident in District 2. And my message is going to be in Spanish. Buenas noches, concejales, al alcalde y a la comunidad en general. Esta tarde estoy aquí como presidenta del Comité Guelaguetza Madera. Hoy los venimos a invitar a la primera Guelaguetza de la ciudad de Madera este domingo 8 de octubre, que se llevará a cabo en el Sunrise Rotary Sports Complex, mejor conocido como el Parque de la Millview. El Comité Guelaguetza Madera es un grupo de residentes locales comprometidos con establecer esta hermosa tradición en nuestra ciudad. Colectivamente hemos dedicado cientos de horas de trabajo y un inmenso esfuerzo durante meses sin esperar más que lograr establecer una guelaguetza en Madera. La guelaguetza es una reconocida celebración indígena y ancestral en el estado mexicano de Oaxaca, que atrae a miles de visitantes de todo el mundo. Al realizar esta celebración en nuestra ciudad, pretendemos compartir nuestro patrimonio cultural, como residentes de cerca y de lejos. Los miembros del Comité Guelaguetza Madera comparten fuertes vínculos con sus raíces indígenas y una sólida historia de esfuerzos organizativos culturales en nuestra comunidad. Estamos encantados de compartir los frutos de nuestro trabajo con nuestra comunidad en los años venideros, así que les reiteramos la invitación a todos y esta invitación también se les envió a sus correos electrónicos. Gracias.
Gracias.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Alicia Torres, and good evening, City Council members, mayors, and everybody in the public. As a member of the Comité Guelaguetza Madera, I invite all of you guys to the first Guelaguetza here on Sunday, October 8th at Sunrise Rotary Sports Complex. So like Minerva said, what is most known as the Millview Park. I think it's the Comité Guelaguetza Madera is a group of local residents committed to establishing this beautiful tradition in our city. And I think in particular, it's important to highlight the involvement of a lot of the younger members of the community in this event. As it highlights the importance of connecting to your roots and also about learning where you're from or your family comes from. While this is a Oaxacan celebration, it is also about community, and you're all our community. So we want to welcome you with open arms to share this beautiful event with all of us. Collectively, we have dedicated hundreds of hours and immense effort for months, expecting nothing more than to achieve establishing a Guelaguetza in Madera. The Guelaguetza is a renowned indigenous and ancestral celebration in the Mexican state of Oaxaca, attracting thousands of visitors from around the globe. By having this celebration in our city, we aim to share our cultural heritage with the residents from here, from near and far. Comité Guelaguetza Madera's members share strong ties to their indigenous roots and a strong history of culture organizing efforts in our community. We are overjoyed to share the fruits of our labor and our effort with you guys, the community, and we hope you can join us. And thank you so much. And you guys got that invitation, and you guys can follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, Comité Guelaguetza. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak? Alicia, do we have any written communications? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ulman Yanez. I am here as a member of the community. You already know me. So I have a question for you. Where do you have any plans or for celebrate Dia de los Muertos or Day of the Dead as our city representatives? Are you planning on doing something for the Day of the Dead?
It's
for you guys.
Yeah.
Answer questions.
Are we allowed to answer questions?
No.
Or,
This is an opportunity for public comment, not
Mhm.
public questions.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, so then can I request a sponsorship or not?
Yeah, I'd like clarification on that, please.
Yes, of course, there's actually a sponsorship or other recognition process that the city has. And you can certainly make comments requesting it. And I think they'll probably ask you to communicate with the city clerk who's sitting right up here. But
Okay,
if you have any comments, please share them with the city council before you do. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you,
okay.
Shannon.
Thank you.
Did you want to make?
Did you want to make your public comment?
About the event, Dia de los Muertos. Okay, so this year I have a community group that will be taking over Dia de los Muertos celebration to continue the celebration, the tradition that Madera community started 2 years ago. Dia de los Muertos is a special event that brings together our Hispanic community to honor and remember our loved ones who have passed away. And I am here, I am reaching out to you today to request your sponsorship for Day of the Dead event. Your support will cover the cost of organizing the event, such as venue rental, decoration, folkloric group performances, and community outreach. So that's all I have. So I hope I can count on you guys. This event is extremely important for our Hispanic community here in Madera. And I don't want that event just to fade away. I want to be able to continue this, celebrating this traditional cultural event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And excuse me, you can give your name and address or your contact information to the city clerk. She's sitting right there. Thank you. Sorry about that, Chair.
No, no worries. Thank you. We will now move on to written communications. Are there any written communications? Are there?
We have no written public comment, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Alicia. We will now move on to presentations. And the first presentation tonight is a proclamation recognizing October 9th, 2023 as Indigenous Peoples Day. And we have Centro Binacional para el Desarrollo Indígena Oaxaqueño here to accept this proclamation.
Thank you.
And we have Oralia Maceda from Centro Binacional. Sí, ¿quieres? Bueno, acompañar. Okay. ¿Quién más? La voy a leer y luego okay. I will read off this proclamation and then I will allow for everybody to say their a few words. Indigenous Peoples Day, whereas the city of Madera recognizes that the indigenous peoples of the lands that would later become known as the Americas have occupied these lands since time immemorial, and whereas the city of Madera values the many contributions made to our community through indigenous peoples' knowledge, labor, technology, science, philosophy, arts, and likewise values the deep cultural contribution that has substantially shaped the character of the city of Madera and our region. And whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And whereas Indigenous Peoples Day shall be used to reflect upon the ongoing struggles of Indigenous peoples and to celebrate the thriving culture and value of the Indigenous people of our region that contribute to our city. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, Elsa Mejia, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Madera, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim October 9th, 2023 as Indigenous Peoples Day. And I present this to Oralia Maceda from Centro Binacional. Hice la presentación de la proclamación reconociendo el 9 de octubre como el Día de los Pueblos Indígenas. Cabe destacar que este es el 30 aniversario de Centro Binacional para el Desarrollo Indígena Oaxaqueño, una organización que se ha dedicado durante las últimas 3 décadas a ayudar a nuestras comunidades migrantes indígenas y que tenemos el privilegio aquí en Madera de contar con la presencia. Muchas felicidades y ahora le permito que pase a tomar la palabra.
Ya cuando ya kibi kureneta ya wachikachi ushi ya na Centro Nacional de Chavendo de Chicano de kibina na nushin de yo ya de Chavena ni ciudad ya Madera ya de Chavendo ya de Chicano yo ya con chino de Chavendo.
Amalia Bernardo Kunani, Centro Binacional para el Desarrollo Indígena Oaxaqueño Yasungani. Croare, Nariquiere, Ñañaua, o ni Veterina, Croaria. Thank you.
Lidia Reyes, bani nunca llamado, nunca se ha villore, tocas lo teres ya, no ni centro, ni nunca, yo escuela la china, ni to, ni chara yela, ni to, marekaban, ni chucha, ni to, si an rich que on ya en cuares ya, dayare, yo nunca, necha, in ya, no, ni. Gracias.
Buenas tardes a todos, el público y los miembros del Consejo de la Ciudad. Gracias, Elsa. Gracias a todos por esta proclamación que es importante para nosotros como comunidades indígenas. Como acaban de escuchar, mis compañeros René habló en mixteco, la compañera Amalia Bernardo, ella habló en triqui y la compañera Lidia habló en chatino. Ellos son residentes de aquí del condado de Madera. Nuestra comunidad es muy diversa aquí en Madera y hay diferentes lenguas maternas indígenas que se hablan. Entonces el condado de aquí, la ciudad de Madera es uno de los lugares en donde hay una fuerte presencia de nuestra comunidad y estamos agradecidos por el reconocimiento que dan al trabajo, a nosotros como comunidad y también por mantener la lengua y todo. Entonces, muchas gracias y a nombre de Centro Binacional, pues queremos agradecer, como mencionó Elsa, nuestra organización. 1 de diciembre cumple 30 años de existencia en trabajar con nuestras comunidades en diferentes condados y diferentes partes de aquí del estado de California. Nosotros tenemos nuestra oficina aquí en Madera. Tenemos nuestra oficina en Fresno, en Greenfield y en Salinas, que son los lugares en donde hay fuerte presencia en nuestra comunidad indígena. Y también quisiera aprovechar a todos para invitarlos que el día 28 de octubre, aquí en la ciudad de Madera, vamos a tener la celebración del Día de los Muertos, una celebración muy importante, como ustedes escucharon hace un momento. Entonces es el sábado 28 aquí en Madera. Entonces, Madera, como había mencionado, hay una fuerte presencia de nuestra comunidad indígena, de nuestra comunidad hispana, y para nosotros es importante estas celebraciones como la Guelaguetza, como el Día de los Muertos. Entonces, todos están invitados y gracias.
Si pueden pasar, por favor, para tomar una foto con el concilio.
Gracias. Pásenle, pásenle. Tengan miedo. Pásenle, pásenle. Felicidades, felicidades. Felicidades, felicidades. Pásenle.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Muchas felicidades. We will now move on to the next proclamation, and this proclamation is recognizing Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And here to receive this proclamation is from the American Cancer Society, Charlotte Brewer, and breast cancer survivor Carolyn Williams. And Council Member Gallegos has graciously accepted to present this presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. I'm here to do a special proclamation on Breast Cancer Awareness Month of October. This has been going on almost 40 years, and it really is to give an awareness to decrease breast cancer in our mothers, our daughters, our aunts, our sisters, and any woman, and even the male is also being affected by this. It's for early detection and reduces the death and increase of life expectancies. This is so important to all of us to make sure that this is an awareness that is out in front of everyone. We have been a champion here at the City of Madera for Relay for Life. That happens the first weekend in May. So put that on your calendars to rally for that. And we're honored we're here to honor the ones that we have lost in this process and in this disease. So on behalf of Mayor Pro Tem Elsa Mejia, I'm sorry, a little under the weather. I would like to present this proclamation as Breast Cancer Awareness Month of October. Congratulations. If you think, Charlotte.
We used to have access to making strides against breast cancer through the American Cancer Society out of Fresno, but they closed our Fresno office. So the nearest event is now held in Modesto, and it's October the 14th. So you can attend that and you can register online. I believe if you go on cancer.org and then look up events, it will be on there. But back to Relay, we raise money for all cancers. So I've got some informational cards here if you don't know what Relay is about. And our next meeting is coming up on Tuesday. We'd love to see you there. And we may be able to go to 24 hours again if we get more early registration and get our funds moving quicker. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Caroline Harrow. And as that's okay, I'm recently married, so but that's all right. I'm just honored to be here this evening, especially as a two-time breast cancer survivor. Thank God for that. Yeah. And thank you to the City Council for your recognition. I have been blessed to participate in Relay for Life for 20 plus years, as well as the Making Strides when it was in Fresno. So we do thank you for the recognition. And again, thank those in the audience who came out. Also, I've got some special friends and my husband is here. And so we're just grateful to still be here and to still be able to raise awareness for breast cancer, because it really does affect families, not just the individual who is going through the treatment. And I want to also put a shout out to men. Men can get breast cancer. I had a nephew that had breast cancer, and he was a 7-year survivor before actually losing his life to COVID. So we know that men can contract breast cancer also. So thank you for this evening.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your story and for working to create awareness.
Yeah. So just letting you all know that October the 17th, the NAACP will be hosting an event for breast cancer awareness. And it's going to be at the Burrito King on Gateway right here. And it starts from 5 to 8. So come on out and support breast cancer awareness. So yes.
I left it down there. It's okay.
It's under my purse.
Oh, where'd it go? Under my purse.
See, most of us had pink today.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
They asked us to wear a shirt, but this we came back that one. Oh, no, you didn't get them there.
I didn't get this.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for coming. You're welcome. Thank you. You take that. Okay. Can't do it. I'm sure.
All right, we will now move on to our third proclamation, and this third proclamation is recognizing Disability Awareness Month. The recipient is joining us via Zoom, and that's DJ Becker, chairperson of the ADA Advisory Council. DJ, are you online?
It was there.
I am. Thank you. I sound like a frog, but I'm here.
All right, I will read this proclamation and then allow for DJ to say a few words. Disability Awareness Month, whereas October has been dedicated nationally to highlight the abilities and contributions of Americans with disabilities. And whereas we are strengthened as a society by striving to ensure that everyone, regardless of ability, has equal access to employment, education, recreation, cultural activities, and community life. And whereas people of all abilities have vastly diverse talents and skills to contribute to our economy, and whereas the city of Madera is committed to ensuring that every person it serves enjoys equal opportunity to participate in and benefit from its programs and services. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, Elsa Mejia, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Madera, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Disability Awareness Month. Thank you. DJ, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much to the city for all the progress and all the guidance. We're looking forward to future projects and future progress and reducing barriers for all Maderans. And we've recently met with Ishmael at Public Works, Joe at Parks, and our partners at Madera PD. And this is such a joint effort. And I'm happy to say that we're making real progress with sidewalks and infill and curb cuts and flags and all kinds of Save the Space campaigns. You can actually see an empty handicap parking space at Walmart for the first time I can remember in 5 or 10 years, thanks to the efforts and the patrols and the education efforts by Madera PD. And Caltrans, we're also communicating with them and making sure that they're aware of our needs and the areas where we would like to focus. And certainly last but not least, Wendy Silva, our excellent chairperson, and thank her for her patience, your in-depth of knowledge, which we couldn't operate without, and your patience. So thank you very much.
Thank you, DJ. And we will be sure to get this to you.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the last proclamation of the night, and that is recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And here to receive that proclamation is Maddie Mendez and Jennifer Coronado from CAPMC.
Yeah. Thank you.
I will read off this proclamation to you. Whereas October is annually recognized as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and whereas although progress has been made toward preventing and ending domestic violence, important work remains to be done. And whereas domestic violence affects all people, Those from marginalized communities remain drastically underserved here in California. And whereas children exposed to domestic violence suffer lifelong trauma, and whereas all survivors deserve access to culturally responsive programs and services to increase their safety and self-sufficiency, and whereas Madera City Council recognizes the vital role that all Californians can play in preventing and one day ending domestic violence, now therefore it be resolved that I, Elsa Mejia, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Madera, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and all council members. Thank you for your support. A lot of proclamations today. This is a beautiful night. But this one is very important to us as a community because it takes all of us to serve our victims of domestic violence. And one of the things that it includes is law enforcement, behavioral health, social services, but it also takes community awareness. How do we read the signs? How to support? Where to refer? And I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. She has items to share and stats and some events that will take place in this month of October. But if any information is needed, feel free to reach out to me. Most of you have my contact information, but my cell number is 559-351-7135. And I'm here to support the community as I do reside in this community and it's very important to me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Coronado, and again, thank you for this proclamation. I did want to share a couple events that we will be hosting. One starting Friday, it's a resource fair to kick off Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It'll be at Pan Am at 3:30 to 5:30. We also have National Domestic Violence Awareness Day, so wear purple on October 19th. And we have our annual Soup Bowl event. So if you not attend our Soup Bowl event, it's basically our main domestic violence awareness. We have a soup buffet. You get a chromatic bowl that's usually painted by some of the children at our shelter, staff, families, other kids throughout the community. So if you have not, I do have flyers for that and I'll be sharing. Again, some of the stats I wanted to share with everyone is this is for 11th month period. So our fiscal year actually just ended last week. So we haven't put those numbers in, but just in the last 11 months, we've had 497 people contact us for information and services. So we're going to be well over 500 people in just domestic violence. We've provided so far in 11 months, 1,013 bed nights to adults and children. And of that, we've had about 56 we've had 29 children staying at our shelter so far this year. Thank you. That's Alicia.
Stand over here so I can.
Oh, nice to see you. Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
That's it? I want more of these. It's Alicia 34.
All right, we will now move on to our presentation. The presentation is from the Children and Youth in Transition Program, and it's going to be by Rosa M. Galindo from Madera Unified School District. She's a program manager.
Thank you.
And we have a slideshow that's being set up for this.
My team's a little shy.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Temp and council members. Can you hear me okay? My name is Rosa Galindo. I am the program manager for the Children and Youth in Transition program. And with me here, I have part of my team, Dana Gutierrez and Araceli Rodriguez, who are student advocates for our program. I will not be going over the overview of education mandates because I only have 5 minutes and I think it's about 39 slides on this one, but I cut it back to only 5. Just the important services that I'll be sharing. And right. Technical difficulties, Alicia. Okay, go. So this is my team. I'm happy to announce that for the past about 1.5 years now, almost 2 years, academic school years, we're on a different calendar than everyone else. I have a team. We had student advocates for each of the purple pyramids and the purple pyramids, well, for each of the pyramids. And right now we do have a vacancy in the purple pyramid, but we do have an office assistant as well. So I'm very excited because it used to be a one-person team right here to serve over 1,000 students in our district that were categorized as either foster or homeless. So a little bit about us. We are the Children and Youth in Transition program. We support the continuity of education of the students in transition, which includes students lacking a fixed, adequate, and or nighttime residence, which is the McKinney-Vento definition for students experiencing homelessness, or those students that are in our foster care system. Our definition under LCFF guidelines with Department of Education is those students who have an open case. So whether they're out of home placement or in home placement, foster care and voluntary cases as well. So we get to support the foster youth. Some of our program goals that we have are, and these are also mandates, so they are our goals, is to ensure timely enrollment, increase school attendance, improve academic achievement, improve social skills, ensure equitable access to resources and services, advocate for appropriate school placement, and increase graduation rates for our youth. And I'm happy to say that last school year, we had almost all of our foster youth and students experiencing homeless seniors did apply for the FAFSA. So we were really excited for that. Services available that we offer our students is, again, assistance with enrollment. We have backpacks and school supplies that we are able to provide them. Transportation to the school of origin when requested. For example, if we do have a family who is in the program and has switched residence, maybe they were in the Nishimoto area and now they're living in the Parkwood area. If it's in the best interest of the child to continue their education in Nishimoto to try to alleviate another change in their lives, then we are required to provide transportation to the child to the school of origin. If we can't provide bus transportation through Madera Unified, we in the past have offered bus tickets or dollar ride tickets to our families, since right now public transportation is still free for the fixed routes. We do work with a lot of our communities here, community-based organizations like the Food Bank, our CAPMC, their housing unit, the domestic violence unit, or victim services. We coordinate a lot with them and offer resources to our families and those referrals. We, as I mentioned, assist with post-secondary education like FAFSA and college applications. I failed to mention that we do have a retired school counselor who is a part of the team as well. And her main focus is just working with our seniors just to help them transition to post-secondary education or work, if that's what they're going to be doing. We host parent workshops. They used to be monthly, but this year we switched them over to quarterly, and that is also in collaboration with Madera County Superintendent of Schools and our Child Welfare Services. So for the families that attend, like our resource parents, are able to gain up to two hours of training that goes towards their resource parents training hours. We do have some events and college and career readiness. We host a RISE conference every spring semester. This year, we're going to be hosting it at Madera High School again, where we invite community colleges to come. And last year, we had about 66 of our students attended, and we invite 7th through 12th grade students. Community colleges came out, different organizations, the Sheriff's Department. they had workout sessions. So it's like a true complex experience for our students to have. And of course, we advocate for IEPs, SSTs, and 504s for our students. Tutoring is one of the services that we've been able to provide to specifically for our students. It's one-on-one tutoring. I know the district offers tutoring for all of the Madera Unified students. That's via the computer virtually, but our tutoring services are one-on-one in person with the child, either after school or in the home. We offer a lot of field trips. We just took 31 middle school students to UC Santa Cruz and then took them to the boardwalk, and we went to the mystery spot. So our next field trip is this coming Monday, the 9th. We are going to be taking high school students, and we are going to UC San Francisco and to Alcatraz. And then there's a couple of other field trips this month that we are going to be having in conjunction with Madera County Superintendent of Schools as well. Oh, UC Merced, and then to the pumpkin patch, and that's going to be for our littles, like our 4th through 6th grade students. So we do offer a lot of college experiences and enrichment experiences for our students. We host a summer camp. This is a collaborative effort with the City of Madera Parks and Rec. This year we brought back swimming, which we were excited for. So we were excited for that partnership that we have with City Parks and Rec. We host a lot of holiday events. The one that's coming up next is our Trunk or Treat. We partner with Madera High School and a lot of the service clubs on campus, athletic clubs as well. And our students kind of go around and they do trunk or treating within the safety of the high school. So if you would like to come out, it's going to be next October 25th on Wednesday evening. And then we also host the Coyote Tree Lane, which is kind of like a Christmas tree lane, but it's it's in December, and we have a spring extravaganza as well. Of course, we already mentioned the outside referrals to the agencies. We do provide professional development to Madera Unified School District staff, but also to community organizations. If anybody would ever like to know additional information on the services or the educational mandates of our students, you can always reach out, and we would be more than happy to go out to your space and provide you with additional information. We do have our CYT referral form. In case anybody ever needs it, it is available on our website. And I would like to conclude the presentation with the video because we have well, Alicia sets it up. With the funding that we've been receiving, we were able to acquire a space, well, rent space, not really acquire, but we have it right next to Compa Frank's. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the restaurant. That's the best way people can recognize where we're located at. It's like right next to Compa Frank's. It's our office space that doubles as a clothing closet and a food pantry for our families. The clothing is donated based, so community members come in and donate their clothing, gently used clothing. We go through it, we hang it up. Everything was professionally installed, so it gives our families that experience of going somewhere and kind of go shopping for clothing articles. And the video kind of captures it.
Today is our open house. We are very excited to showcase our office space, and our office space doubles as a clothing closet and food pantry. So the student populations that myself and my team work with are our students experiencing homelessness and students in the foster care system, plus a few other at-promise youth that are a director. We invite our families to come in and go shopping. In our closet space and our food pantry, we have a little kiosk where they check in. We just ask them basic information like their name, telephone number for contact information, and the number of kids that are at the school sites. And then they come in and we give them a shopping bag, and we try to make it an experience for them as easy as possible, like they are actually shopping. So we just let them get whatever they want, as much as they need. It's very exciting. This is something that Superintendent Todd Lyle and I talked about, dreamed about. We discussed having a place like this for our families to come. Now it's here. it's come to fruition. I think that's what makes it very special, because it's something that I've been thinking of since I came back to Madera Unified, and now just to see it grow and to a year now to actually it's nice and furnished. We have closet space. It was professionally installed, just to make our families feel special, make them feel welcome. Don't make them feel any less because of their current circumstances. It's just a welcoming environment for them. And like I said, we just try to give them that experience.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I don't know.
No questions for me, but a comment. I was looking for something like this locally, so I'm glad I found out about it today. And I think there's a comment or question.
Oh, no. Go banana slug. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will now move on. There are no introductions tonight, but we do have a workshop, and this workshop is on Measure T. It's a Measure T update. This workshop is submitted for informational purposes only, and there is no action requested from City Council tonight. This report will be given by Keith.
Actually, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm just actually here to go ahead and introduce Kendall Flint with DKS. Their firm was hired to go ahead and do public outreach and education. And I was going to go ahead and try to find the file, and I think I've got a little bit.
Let me close out.
I'm going to.
Okay.
And then we have the. There.
Like that.
That sounds slow. I do.
Yep.
Oh, nice to have somebody else do that for me. Yay.
All right. And right down here, hard to see, but the arrows are right down here.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting me contend here tonight. I just have to say, before I give my presentation, how wonderful it was to see the proclamations and everything ahead. I mean, it's really such a sense of community, and it just makes you kind of go like, yay, right? It's a happy thing. I am here, Kendall Flint with DKS Associates, and also with me tonight is Troy McNeil, and he's the Deputy Director for the Madera County Transportation Commission. And I'm here tonight to really give the council an update. I think several of your members actually are very intimately involved with this particular project, but I want to kind of tell you what's happening with Measure T and what the next steps are. And basically the board of directors for MCTA have decided, that is the Transportation Authority. That's the folks that actually manage the Measure T money that come in, and that money's then sent out to the various local jurisdictions. In this case, the city of Madera, city of Chowchilla, and the county. So what we're doing right now is we're basically out in the community talking with people about what Measure T has had in terms of impact on our local communities, and talking about what is up next for this, if it would be renewed. And to be very clear about this, there is no renewal on the table right now. That has not been determined. What we're looking at right now is how could we approach this in a way that would be suitable for the local voters and for our communities to be able to support that, but also to be very cognizant that the last effort in the 2022 campaign timing did not reflect, at least we were told, did not reflect really what the community wanted to see, and it had some basic flaws. So just want to be clear about this. I'm not here tonight to tell you to support Measure T or to oppose Measure T, but just let you know what the process is going to look like and how we're continuing to move forward at this point. Now, as I stand here today, Measure T has generated $156 million in terms of half-cent tax revenue in Madera County. It's also allowed the agencies to leverage an additional $319 million. So altogether, by the time this actually wraps up in 2027, we're talking about $217 million additional. So almost $500 million that would not be here in this county if the measure was not in place. That's really important for people to understand. There was Measure A that was originally the first tax measure that was passed here in the county. And then this measure was put on the books in 2006. So at this point, that's very important. And I think what most of the folks here in the city of Madera understand, 40% of the city's budget for local street and road maintenance comes from Measure T. So if that funding goes away, roughly half of your ability to fund your local street and road maintenance programs will go with it. And that's very important for people to understand. It's a similar situation for Chowchilla and for the county. These are real numbers, and that would have to be replaced by another funding source, which in this case could be general fund or another piece. So we're thinking about how would we go about a second attempt at Measure T renewal for the 2024 ballot. Now, even though the measure has a little more time, some people said, well, why don't you wait till 2026? And one of the things that the board knows is that in general elections, especially presidential elections, we have a higher turnout, more people are engaged. So the thought process is that perhaps the 2024 ballot would be the one that we could get the most public engagement. So what we're looking at in this approach is very different than what happened in 2022, and it reflects what we could perceive to be the direction given by voters. And frankly, more than a few local residents that stood up and said, hey, you're not doing this right. We got problems with the way you're putting this together. So some very basic changes that I want to make everyone aware of. First of all, if this goes forward, it is going to have a sunset date. The 2022 measure did not have that, and people perceive that as a forever tax. In this case, we're talking probably about 20, 25, or 30 years, but that will be determined by a citizen-based body that will be the steering committee for establishing how the measure is structured. And when I say structured, it means these will be local residents that will be making the decision about how the money is spent or allocated. Is it going to local streets and roads? Is it going to regional projects? Is it going to transit, safe routes to schools? Whatever that looks like, that's going to be a citizen-driven process. And in this case, which I'll talk about more in a minute, we're recruiting actively for 4 representatives from each of the 5 supervisorial districts in the county of Madera. And the idea here is we want a very diverse group of people. We want folks that are all ages, all ethnic backgrounds, all different types of political views in order to make it be as comprehensive and as inclusive as possible. Now, the 2022 plan has been shelved. It does not exist. There is no plan right now. So this particular steering committee, and by the way, the applications we made public tomorrow through social media, through the local agencies, anyone and everyone who is a resident of Madera County is invited to apply on this. We really encourage it. We're talking about probably 5 to 6 meetings that'll be happening over the next 4 or 5 months, where these folks will help, actually not help, they will drive the development of the piece. Now, the other thing we heard from folks, and this is, it's interesting to me because I worked on several of these measures over the years, but the current Measure T as it exists today does not have what we would consider in today's world strong oversight. And when I say strong oversight, it's come as a shock to many people, but most people don't really trust government to spend money on a trust us. They want to know if you give X number of dollars to a city or an agency and you tell them that you're going to spend it on whatever it is, in this case, it's roads, they want the receipt. They want to see that you spent it on that road and this is how much we spent, and that goes on and on. So one of the things that we're working on is the idea of having actually strong reporting mechanisms in place. And that's something, again, we'll be talking with the steering committee, but in that case, it means that each of the agencies would be required to provide at a minimum biannual, twice a year, but maybe as much as quarterly reports to say, this is what we did with the money that we received. And these are the projects that we spent that on. And here's a picture of that project. And these are the vendors or the contractors that we used to do that. It's pretty much common sense. I know the cities actually do that already with grant fundings and other pieces. So it seems a reasonable request. And we heard from many people in the 2022 effort that they said, you know, we want to have some guardrails on this to know that the money is being spent as we were promised. So in Madera's standpoint, there are a number of projects that were, I'm just going to go over this very briefly, but there were a number of projects that were funded by Measure T. And in fact, one thing that I think people don't realize is that Measure T is just one element, one stream of various funding sources that come in. So the measure money is used to leverage state and federal money. So you apply for a grant and say, we're going to put up our $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it is. And you theoretically are able to double or triple that. So very important. And there have been some very real impacts in this community. There are also a number of projects that have yet to be completed. And so without additional funding of some sort, they may or may not be able to come to fruition. And to be clear, even though $500 million sounds like a ton of money, it's actually not in transportation world, right? So part of the challenge here is that really most of this money going to local street and road maintenance, it's literally a matter of hanging on for dear life, if you will. We're not going to be repaving all the roads in any of these towns, right? It's just a matter of keeping the roads as well maintained as possible to make sure that they are, in fact, helping us get people to school safely, helping us get to work safely. So I'm very excited that we have a number of opportunities in the community. We're talking with local community groups, the school districts, the community service districts, and we're going to be out and about as much as we possibly can. And if anyone has any ideas, it was actually kind of fun tonight to hear about some of the events coming up. We're going to try to attend as many of those as we can, but we will be in Oakhurst this weekend. We will be at the, I'm going to say this wrong and I apologize, the Guelaguetza Festival. I love Oaxacan art, though. I collect it. It's awesome. But we're going to be doing all these things in both English and in Spanish. We're going to be going to people, to their communities, to the places where they live and congregate. And we're not going to expect people to just come to us because frankly, they're busy and they have other things to do. But it is important that we get this recruitment going with the resident-driven committee. So for anyone that is interested in that, it will be available online through the Madera County Transportation Commission site. We're going to provide links to all the member agencies. It's available as a printed handout. It's also available as an online piece. And again, we are really encouraging people to apply for this and to share their ideas and their concerns. We will be establishing a new website that will give information specifically about where projects have been funded in the areas. So you can go into your community and see where the money went. And thankfully, I really want to say a shout out and thanks to the Madera staff because they've been the most forthcoming of all the 3 districts with actually giving us this information, which is very important to the public. They want to know. And we're also looking for, again, opportunities to talk with other community groups. So if you have a group you would like us to speak with, if you have questions, we want this to be as transparent and inclusive as a process as possible. This is my contact information and also Troy's. Both of us are available. Don't feel like if it's after 5, you can't call. You can absolutely call. My husband loves it when that happens. And we're in it for the long haul. So be sure if you've got a group, if you've got a question, or you've heard something and you want to know if it's correct, we want to make sure that it's a transparent process, that people know what's going on with it and they understand the impacts of our world with Measure T and our world if Measure T is not renewed. And just to make it clear again, there is no investment package on the table at this point that will be developed by the Citizen Advisory Committee, actually Citizen Steering Committee, and there will be more oversight and there will be a sunset. And with that, I'm really able to answer any of the questions that the council may have. But we know that from speaking to many of you, this is an important issue for the city of Madera. We want to make sure that your residents are well informed and have all the most accurate and up-to-date information as possible to make an intelligent and informed decision as this process moves forward.
Thank you. We have a question from Councilmember Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia. Kendall, just a question about the resident committee member. How much time are they going to be able, how much time are they going to have to look at to pull away from their family to be on this committee?
Great question. We're anticipating that it'll be probably in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 90-minute meetings. We want to move these meetings throughout the county so that we're actually cognizant that it's not convenient for everybody to, for example, be in Madera. But we also understand that we have some residents that have challenges either with childcare or getting to a place, right? So we'll be looking at transportation options to provide either shuttle service or a way to get them there. But we want to maximize their time. And we also want to simplify the process. The previous measure that was passed in 2006 has a lot of language that is not accessible to the general public and a lot of caveats that aren't necessarily viable or good in today's time. So it would not surprise me if we get a group together and they say, hey, we just really want local roads. Let's do that. And it becomes a much faster process, but we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that people have that time to be able to make those decisions.
So the applications are coming out tomorrow. How long do they have to turn it in till?
We are hoping that we can get them closed out by October 20th.
Wow, that's not much time.
It's not much time, and we may extend that depending on, you know, what we hear from folks. We don't want to rush it, but we want to make sure that we have ample time. We've already been contacted by a number of folks that have said, hey, I'm really interested in this. And frankly, some of the folks that are very interested in it were people that were not very supportive of the previous effort. And I think it's important to note it is upon us to make sure that that group is independent, is diverse, and has those different viewpoints at the table, and is given a legitimate and real opportunity to speak their mind and make their case to their, you know, fellow other participants. This is not a case where the board of directors or staff is going to develop the plan. This has got to be something that the citizens develop and make happen.
Okay, 2 more questions, Kendall. The next one is, if you get like 20 applications, who's the one deciding who's going to be on this committee?
Interesting conversation that we had today, because we had some pushback previously that, well, if you've got and I think they're all wonderful human beings, but if you've got a supervisor and they point their people, right? Well, for some people that feels like that's just a continuation. So one of the options we're looking at is that if we get more, and I would love it if we got that many people, that we convene smaller meetings among the people in that supervisorial district, introduce them to each other, take a look at the makeup of that group, and have them help us influence how that comes about. Most of the time, our experience has been that, frankly, we're unlikely to get that number of people. It's probably going to be more in the 5. If we get 5 to 7, I would be so excited. But we feel like it needs to be something that they decide amongst themselves, where they're kind of making that work. Another option, which was discussed, is that when we get them, that we just randomly take the names off everybody, and we randomly select based on, you know, age criteria. Because we don't want to have everybody that's over 60 and nobody that's representing youth, right? We want to make sure it's diverse, but it will be not pointed by supervisors. It will definitely be one of those 2 scenarios, depending on how many applications we get.
Okay, and last question, if the applications are due October 20th, are you looking to have these meetings, because holidays are coming, November, December? So are you looking to start this the first of the year, or?
No, we
kick off
have to
now?
start, and just to make that clear, we have to get a meeting in this year. And the good news is, again, you know, I think we hoped that we could do it in October. It's probably going to be in November before the holidays, like in those first 2 weeks. And then, you know, we have an education standpoint with that steering committee, right? Because we have to help them understand the different types of money, where money comes from, and also understand what the needs are of all their communities. Most people know really well what their community needs, but they're not so clear about what the other community might need. So we have to be, you know, conscious of that. We have some I'm going to say underserved. We have some communities that have historically not had the same investments that others. We've had some that feel that they're not close to either Chowchilla or Madera, and they feel like they're left out. So that's one of the reasons we have to be really cognizant to make sure that it's a fair and reasonable process that people can support.
Okay, thank you, Kendall. That's all, Mayor Pro Tem.
And thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Kendall, thank you for your presentation. I did want to ask maybe Troy a question. This is a pretty question that I think you can answer simply, but the funding for transportation, if you don't mind, can you please kind of expand as far as where those funds come from and how they make it here? And I'll ask a second question to follow up. So if you don't mind.
So that's a pretty complex question there, Council Member. So primarily the funding sources from transportation come from gas tax, which goes to the state. So we have no control necessarily of those funds. They come here and we have an opportunity to use those funds for local maintenance. We have sales taxes, for example, like Measure T. Part of the sales tax that we have from the state comes back to the county region. A quarter cent goes towards a local transportation fund. It's primarily to use for public transportation. And once the transit needs are met, they can use for street and roads. On top of that, it's primarily state and federal grant driven. Primarily, there are some formula funds that we get from the federal and state grants, not very much. And so we have to compete. And in order to compete, we have to bring something to the table. And that's why Measure T is so important, is it helps us to come to the table with money to have matching funds and to be able to compete for the many competitive and discretionary programs that are out there for transportation. And so Measure T is a big part of our funding, but it's not the only part.
Thank you, Troy. And the reason why I wanted you to answer that is because the main component of the funding is probably your gas tax, aside from the federal and state grants. As we continue to develop into a EV type of industry, which we're starting to see, then that means nobody's pumping gas with those EVs. They're going to take a different measurement possibly to collect. But for now, we're seeing that there's a big EV hype, and people are starting to get to purchase these. But nevertheless, there is a gap in funding, and I think Kendall spoke on it, that 47% of our maintenance and operations here in the city of Madera derive from Measure T funds, which is huge. So if we don't have those Measure T funds, what can we depend on, right? And I'm not sure if that's a question that Keith can ask. I mean, I'm just throwing these questions just to kind of let not only my colleagues know, but also the audience and our public that it is essential, and it is an essential need for us to have that measure to continue. Now, again, we're not promoting any measures here. What I know that 2024 may be a consideration, but the reason why I think it's important to consider a presidential election is because in the previous election for that measure, there was a very low turnout. And if you're data driven, then you'll see that not too many people come out and vote during midterm elections. We need support not only of our city, but our surrounding county to really be behind this. And I understand that in the previous steering committee, there were certain focuses or emphasis that were not touched on. And I think it's important to bring the community around this so that they too can have their say as far as what's needed within transportation. I think our biggest thing here for the city and as representative of the city is that we take into account the amount of funding that we lose if we don't continue having some self-help or imposed tax that we've had for over 30 years. So I think there may be a good way of communicating this out to our public. I think you guys are doing a great job, Kendall, so thank you so much. But I just wanted to address how important it is for us to continue to have that Measure T. We had one other measure that we successfully passed here. Well, I mean, several other measures that we successfully passed here in the city. One of them, of course, was Measure K. And the last one that I was part of happened in the last minute, but that was also Measure R. And that was with the efforts. Again, I think that took place all in presidential elections. So if anything, if we have to look at anything that certainly works in some cases, is that we go back into history and we look at what is the best time for these measures to pass. And I think historically, we've seen that the presidential elections have a really good turnout. So those are my comments. I know we're not promoting that this is coming across it, but what I'm trying to make sure that not only my colleagues and our audience know is that it's very essential for us to continue to have this tax that supports our maintenance and operations and other projects such as what you saw there. So thank you again.
Just wanted to add one thing for clarification. A lot of people they misinterpret the gas tax, which was changed and then kind of recalibrated for inflation. And they think that SB1 funding actually comes to the local jurisdiction. And that is simply not the case. The local jurisdictions, when you go to the gas and go to pay at the gas pump, right? That money is going to Sacramento. That is going for very different things. There's a carve out that only the self-help counties, which we are at this point, can apply for. So the fact of the matter is that SB1 does not provide enough money for local road maintenance by a long shot. It's really there for more the Caltrans and other pieces. So that's why so many of the counties in California have gone the self-help route, because it's their only way to access the discretionary funds, right? And it's not fair. And I've heard this 100 times, like, well, why did they do that in Sacramento? And I can't help you with that, but we can tell you that without that, Madera County would not be as competitive and would not see that additional $320 million and potentially more as it coming through. And also to your point, the state is considering changing gas tax to vehicle miles traveled. This is being fought by the ACLU and others right now, but we will eventually see a shift away from gas tax revenues because of EV to the actual miles traveled in your car, because an EV still is on the road regardless of alternate fuels. So there's a lot of things at play, and we're going to try to share as much factual information as possible. But if people do have questions, again, feel free to contact me or send me an email, and I'll get you whatever information that you need in order to be making those kinds of decisions in an informed manner.
Thank you, Kendall. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item be removed from the consent calendar and it will be considered separately. Do I have any public comment on that?
We have no written public comment, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Any question from my colleagues? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve consent to calendar as presented.
Second.
Can you do the second again?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Montes to approve the consent calendar as presented, seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, you won, Councilwoman Gagos. Oh, you won.
Okay.
It's a really long consent calendar. We will now move on to item C, public hearings. Item C1, public hearing regarding the program year 2022-2023 Community Block Grant CDBG Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report and Financial Summary. And this presentation is by Marcela Zúñiga.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay?
I am so sorry, Marcela.
Yes.
They're not, okay, go on, sorry.
Okay, okay, good evening again. Tonight's presentation is on the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, otherwise referred to as the CAPER. The CAPER is one of the community block development grants funding requirements. It shows the progress made on the goals set in fiscal year 2022-2023 CDBG action plan. It provides the Office of Housing and Urban Development with data regarding the individuals served, project activity detail, and achieved outcomes. The prior fiscal year 2022-2023's allocation was in the amount of $922,010. The total amount dispersed to subrecipients other than planning and administration totaled $350,478. That leaves a remaining unexpended balance of $571,532. The open balance, I'm sorry, the remaining balance is highly contributed to capital improvement projects that are currently in progress at the moment. We also still have projects that were awarded CDBG CV monies, and that is the CARES Act funds. Those funds were awarded in program year 2020-2021. At that time, the city received $938,981 from the CARES Act. During program year 22-23, the city dispersed $451,662 out to some of the subrecipients, leaving a remaining unexpended balance of $487,319. Some of the major accomplishments for these subrecipients this prior fiscal year are as follows. Madera Coalition for Community Justice, their street art program, their goal was to serve 125 clients, and they were able to serve or provide services to 64 students through an art-focused initiative. The Olive Charitable Organization had a goal to serve 19 clients, and they provided case managed care to 27 victims of human trafficking. The Madera Coalition for Community Justice's rental assistance program, their goal was to serve 17 clients. They were able to assist 10 clients who were at risk of eviction or utility shutoff. However, they also provided or screened and provided services to an additional 309 Madera residents. Pequeños Empresarios, their goal was to serve 20 clients. They were able to serve 200 clients. This was a combination of children and parents. They held workshops that improved participant academic achievements, social skills, and communication. The Madera Rescue Mission, their goal was to serve 200 clients. They served 352 unduplicated individuals. They provided a bed and homeless services to them. Other program outcomes include providing over 42,000 meals. They had 9 recovery program graduates, and 25 of their clients secured full-time employment. The Community Action Partnership for Continuum of Care, their staff planned for the annual point-in-time survey. Now, a couple of our programs, as I mentioned, did continue serving families who have been impacted by COVID-19. These include the Madera Coalition for Community Justice, their rental assistance program. Their overall goal was to serve 1,050 clients. During program year 2022-23, they provided eviction and utility shutoff prevention to 572 households that were impacted by COVID-19. Community Action Partnership of Madera County, their rental assistance program, their overall goal was to provide services to 15 clients. They provided eviction and utility shutoff prevention to 4 households, excuse me, impacted by COVID-19. The public review and comment period for the CAPER, staff published and made available at the city clerk's office the public notice and comment period on September 20th, 2023. During the 15-day public comment period, no comments have been received. The public review and comment period will expire today, October 4th, 2023. Our next steps are asking for council approval asking for council to open the public hearing, asking council to adopt a resolution approving submission of fiscal year 2022-2023 CAPER and financial summary report to HUD. Upon approval, staff will submit the CAPER to HUD. That concludes the presentation, and I can answer any questions if there are some.
Thank you, Marcela. I will now open the public hearing. Alicia, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no written public comment, and there's no one on Zoom, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I will now close public comment for this item, and I will ask for discussion from my colleagues. And I will now ask for a motion from my colleagues.
So I'm saying move to adopt resolution for C1.
Second.
Councilman Montes moves to adopt resolution for item C1, seconded by Councilman Villegas. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We will now move on to item C2, public hearing regarding annexation number 1 of the Madera Place Apartments into Community Facilities District number 2013-1 under the Mello-Roos Community Facilities Act of 1982 and related actions. I now open the public hearing for annexation number 1 regarding the annexation of territory to Community Facilities District CFD number 2013-01.
I declare that the notice of public hearing was published on August 24th, 2023. Will, I believe there's another second published date for that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, Alicia. Will you repeat that for me, please?
The publication date for the public hearing notice, I know we had to route it one more time, I believe. Was there a second notice published?
No, it was only the original published notice and then the action of the council to continue to a date and time certain this evening.
Okay, got it. So I declare the notice of the public hearing was published on August 24th, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Staff, please proceed with your staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia. Council members will tack at community development. You seen my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this item was first presented to the council on August 2nd, at which point the council adopted resolutions adopting a boundary map depicting the territory proposed for annexation and declaring its intent to annex and setting the public hearing. The public hearing date, as mentioned, was originally set for September 6th. However, the city clerk did not receive the consent and waiver ballot timely prior to the hearing, and thus the council continued to this evening. The project site comprises approximately 1.15 acres of land located on the southeast corner of the intersection of Stadium Road and Milano Lane. This is an older aerial image. You can see some buildings erected on the subject property. The balance of the buildings in phase 2 have been erected at this time. This is a site plan for the Madera family apartments. Again, this was a project split into 2 phases, with phase 1 retaining the moniker of Madera Family Apartments and phase 2 being dubbed Madera Place Apartments. The approval authorized the development of 72 affordable housing units, split between the 2 phases, with 40 units included in phase 1. Those are the buildings you see on this exhibit in the yellow color, and 32 units included in phase 2, those buildings shown on the site plan in the darker blue color. The project was conditioned, this was approved back in 2010, it was conditioned to be annexed into CFD 2005-01, which was the Public Services CFD. However, subsequently, the city received a request from the property owner for prepayment, a 30-year prepayment of the special tax assessment, and that was approved by council. Subsequently, CFD 2013-1 was formed for purposes of accounting for the special advance prepayment. 2013-1 is also a public services CFD intended to fund the gap between the revenue generated and the development and the cost of delivering the public services. So we are covering the same public services with the 2 CFDs. It is just the rate and method of apportionment and the accounting that is different between the 2. Taxes are deposited in the general fund since the impacts are specific to the general fund. The proposal for you will be the first annexation to the originally formulated CFD. Again, phase 1 for the 40 affordable units contributed $175,000 in change back in 2013 for the phase 1 component of the project. The fee calculations have been updated based upon present day value, and thus we have calculated using the same formula based upon the present day value $225,000 in change for the second phase, 32 affordable units for the prepayment. This would generate $7,000 again in change per unit for the 30-year term of the affordability covenant or deed restriction. This is again an aerial exhibit which reflects the boundary map, which was adopted through resolution by the council. The yellow line being the original boundary of the CFD formulated, and the red line being the area comprising annexation number 1. Staff is recommending that the public hearing be held, that the council adopt the resolutions authorizing the annexation of the territory, the levy of the special tax, and the submittal of the levy of tax to the qualified electors, and that the council conduct the election and adopt a resolution making the findings, declarations, certifications, and results, and adding the territory to CFD 2013-1. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to field questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. I now open the hearing to protest comments and questions from interested parties. Seeing none, Alicia, are there any written protests, and do you have any declarations?
I declare no written protests were received by the city, that there are less than 12 registered voters within the territory to be annexed into Community Facilities District 2013-01, that written consents to holding the Community Facilities District elections today have been received from all landowners within the proposed annexation number 1, and that I concur with the holding of the special election for annexation number 1.
I now close the public hearing. Is there any discussion from the council? Is there a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the annexation, authorizing the levy of a special tax, and submitting the levy of tax to the qualified electors?
Move, and that would be item C22, correct?
Second.
Move to approve item C22.
Yes. Councilman Montes moves to approve item C2, seconded by Councilman Villegas. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alicia, I call on you to conduct the election.
One ballot has been received. I now close the election and announce the results. As to annexing the property under annexation number 1 to CFD number 2013-01. We have 1 yes vote and 0 no votes. I declare the annexation, passes unanimously. Council, you may proceed to consider adoption of the resolution and declaring the election results.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution declaring the election results, adding territory as annexation number 1 to CFD 2013-1 and authorizing the levy of a special tax?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Gallegos moves to approve, seconded by Councilman Rodriguez. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The motion to adopt a resolution certifying the results of the election, adding the territory and annexation number 1 to CFD 2013-01 and authorizing the levy of a special tax has passed by a vote of 1.
Is that 6-0?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So sorry about that.
Of 6-0.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. We will now move on to item D, petitions, bids, resolutions, ordinances, and agreements. Item D1, modifications to the City of Madera classification plan and adjustment of salary ranges for certain positions. And this presentation is by Wendy Silva.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. So the item before
It's
you.
a little bit difficult to hear you, Wendy.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the item before you is a group of actions to effectuate changes to the city's classification plan, which is the plan of adopted job descriptions, as well as some adjustments on the full-time salary schedule. So I'm going to take them in the order that they are in the staff report. So the staff report addresses first the professional engineer series. And simply for reference for those present, these listed here in the table are the classifications the city has for professional engineers. An assistant engineer has what's called an engineer in training certificate from the state of California. They may have a college degree in civil engineering. They may have college coursework in civil engineering without a formal degree, but they are not licensed as a registered civil engineer. Once they are registered in the city's classification plan, once they've passed their tests, they become an associate civil engineer. Then as time goes on and they gain work experience, they would move to senior. And then you have a deputy city engineer who supervises a division, as well as your city engineer who has overall department responsibility. So these are the positions we are discussing this evening. So we have struggled for several years to attract and hire registered civil engineers in the city of Madera. In 2021, we did make some adjustments to the salary ranges for those positions. However, we have not been successful in hiring a registered civil engineer since then. So it did not quite get us where we wanted to be. We did put ourselves in a position where we have been able to retain our assistant engineers, which are the entry level, but it's the experienced engineers with years of project management that we are missing at the moment. So for this reason, staff updated a compensation study, the one that was conducted in 2021 for the professional class series, to see just where we were in the market. And in looking at that series, what we looked at were surrounding agencies as shown on the slide, as well as Caltrans, because we do lose engineers to Caltrans as well as other staff. So what do we look at when we're gathering the data? What we are trying to measure is what does the employee see in their paycheck? Because that's generally what an employee is looking at when they're deciding to accept a job offer or move jobs. So we look at their pay, we look at how much they pay for retirement. We take into account if their employer makes any contributions to additional retirement, such as the city's 457 plan, and we look at what the individual pays out of pocket for healthcare. So what that told us when we looked at it was, except for assistant engineer, which if you'll recall, we are able to retain assistant engineers at the moment, all of the rest of our positions are out of market. Looking at market median. Market median is when you line up all the data points and you go to the middle. And so what we looked at is what could we do to potentially improve our rank in the market. And I know there's a lot of numbers on this slide. So here is the same information in picture version. So what you can see is assistant engineer, we're actually right there at the top of the market. We're not recommending, you'll see as I move forward, that all positions be placed at the top of the market. What we're trying to do is adjust them just enough to improve our position in the market. So what you'll see on this slide is where base pay is currently and where staff is recommending base pay be moved to. And these recommended adjustments take into account both the market data that was gathered as well as internal relationships. And so between those positions and positions they potentially report to. And so on the far right, you can see the amount that each position is proposed to be adjusted. And this slide here takes a look at total compensation, taking into account those factors we looked at in gathering data, and then what these proposed changes would do to the city's market position. So what we're trying to do is put ourselves in a better position than the midpoint. And sometimes that midpoint is a tight cluster, so a tiny change might move you in the market, and sometimes it's a spread out set of data points, and so it might take a little bit more to move you. But what does all this mean when you talk about, okay, this is going to improve our position in the market? What is the cost to the city? So trying to put numbers on it, this is what I would call your maximum exposure, because this assumes that we would fill positions currently vacant. But it does also take into account for those positions any merit increases that are due, as well as any cost of living adjustments that are in bargaining units or that the city has already agreed to. And so when we take all of that into account, looking at current budget year, we have 4.46 full-time equivalent positions in these classifications. And if all of them were filled as budgeted with the new base salaries, it would increase your annual cost by $107,800. If you rolled forward into the next fiscal year, this is now assuming your engineering department is fully staffed with every single position in the budget and it's staffed the entire year. Every person receives their merit increase and you have a 2% COLA and then another one in January. It would be an additional $278,000. What pays for that? And engineering, if you'll remember from your budget book, is listed in the general fund departments. But the work that most of these engineers would be doing, especially if we're able to hire senior engineers, is charged up to specific projects. It would not be general fund expense. Let me go back. Are there any questions at this time on the engineer recommendations?
I don't see any.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next section of the report talked about our information services manager position in our information technology department. So the IS manager, information services manager, is a direct report of the city manager. And they are responsible, that department, for all computer and communication systems, including public safety in the city. We currently have a vacancy in this position and tried recruiting. Candidates were not strong and were not a good fit for the organization. So prior to relaunching the recruitment, while we were gathering data for the engineer series, we gathered data for local agency IT positions. We did not include Caltrans, though. We just kept it to the local agencies, the cities, and then Madera County. And so when we looked at that, we are below market median. So we're less than the middle of the market. Total compensation's out of market by a little over 6%. And base pay is out of market by almost 10%. And so in looking at a couple of things, internal relationships, other entities, and how positions are, how their job classifications are positioned in the market, staff is recommending that the base pay be adjusted by approximately 10%. And we're also recommending that the job title be changed to Director of Information Technology. And this is to put it in line with other positions in the city classification plan. Everyone who is a direct report of the city manager has director in their title. This is the only direct report of the city manager that currently does not. So the recommendation is to adjust both the title as well as the base pay. That adjustment to base pay revises the total compensation just enough to move us to this is one of those where it puts us just above the middle of the market, just a teeny tiny bit, but we got there with the 10% adjustment to base pay. And so we improve our position in the market to being ranked number 4 in the region. So what is that cost? If we look at what is budgeted, assuming it had been filled, total cost in the current year, which would have included the adjustment as well as COLA, would be $20,000. And then the additional cost in second year would be 15 on top of that. That would be for a merit increase and the 2 additional COLAs that are slated based on council approved action. And then how is that paid? Information services and internal service fund, their expenses are spread across all funds in the city. And then that fund also has its own fund balance. But that is the recommendation relative to Director of Information Technology. Are there any questions on that item or section of the item?
I don't see any questions.
Okay. And the last action is a recommendation on changing a job description, but no adjustment to the pay. As part of the budget, we looked at taking the park planning manager position and modifying it to parks project manager. So staff worked together with the Parks and Community Services Department to propose modifications and then ran those by the bargaining unit to consult on the change. And there's no recommended change to the salary range, as I mentioned. So what you have before you in your packet is a recommendation on 3 resolutions. The first one modifies the classification plan having to do with the job description for Director of Information Technology and Parks Project Manager. The second proposed resolution is a side letter agreement with mid-management because some of the engineer positions are represented by that unit and the city needs their concurrence regarding any proposed adjustments. And then the third resolution is adopting the full-time city salary schedule, representing all of these changes that would be effectuated if these items are adopted. And I can answer any questions, but that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Wendy. I see no questions. Alicia, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no one on Zoom and no written public comment, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I will now close public comment for this item and I ask for discussion from my colleagues. We have Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Wendy, again for the presentation. I just want to keep my comments pretty brief, but you know, you did mention that in 2021, we had to make adjustments to some of the salary schedule. And 2 years later, we're making this again. I know that in the midst of COVID, a lot of funds, you know, cities gained money and they were able to recruit aggressively, especially engineers and or different department heads. But I always see this as a race to the top. And sometimes I think that our strategies in recruiting folks, I don't know that we have a great package, so to speak, for a recruiting mechanism that can retain people here in the city of Madera. You know, and I've always said that, maybe utilizing and thinking outside the box and possibly allowing incentives with housing and something like that. It's not something that I can tell you we can do now. That have to be channeled out through legal counsel. But I'm certainly not comfortable in moving into a position where we have to do this every other year because we're not keeping up with the surrounding communities. I just think that we have to be more aggressive in the way we recruit and how we do that in a total package that obviously affects the compensation. So those are my comments. I wish, I will say that I know it's very difficult for a lot of the folks that work for the city. They're looking at other areas that may have higher pay. Obviously, that's an incentive to move out and look through those channels. But I just would hope that we as a city would be more aggressive in maintaining, aggressively pursuing with other channels, not necessarily with compensation. That's just my way, so that 2-3 years down the road, we're not facing the similar issues. We're actually presenting something that's long-term, sustainable, and looking out for the budget of the city. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez. I see no other questions or comments, so I will entertain a motion from my colleagues.
Move to approve item D1 as presented.
Second it.
I have a motion from Councilman Montes to adopt the item as presented, seconded by Councilwoman Gallegos. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh.
So,
Should we do roll call?
so Mayor Pro Tem, you can do roll call, but before you do, was the second by Councilwoman Gallegos or was it by Councilwoman Evans?
Evans.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the mayor, you can do roll call if you prefer.
Okay, Alicia, can you do roll call?
Councilmember Gallegos.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
No.
Councilmember Montes.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mejia.
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas.
Yes.
Mayor Garcia is absent. Motion passes motion passes with 5 yes votes and 1 no vote.
Thank you, Alicia. We will now move on to item D2, consideration of adoption of a tax sharing agreement between the City of Madera and the County of Madera. And this presentation is by Will Tackett.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Will Tackett, Community Development. Okay, so the item before you this evening is consideration of a new tax sharing agreement, a master tax sharing agreement between the City of Madera and the County of Madera. The purpose of the agreement is to set forth terms and stipulations relative to the exchange of property and sales tax revenues between the county and city in connection with annexations of property to the city and pursuant to the authority of the Revenue and Taxation Code. It's important to note that without an agreement in place, LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission responsible for approving annexations to the city, is prohibited from issuing a certificate of filing for an annexation. The agreement also recognizes the need for orderly growth within and adjacent to the city, provides support for appropriate annexations, promotes concentrating development within the city, and sets forth terms for how development projects within the city's urban growth boundary and sphere of influence will occur. The previous agreement was adopted by council in 2017, but expired on June 6, 2022. So we've been a little over a year without an executed agreement. The TSA that's recommended by staff for adoption by the council this evening does substantially conform to the terms of the previous agreement. So we did not try to start over from scratch with a new template format or terms. We looked at the terms that we had and built upon them with other considerations. The County Board of Supervisors adopted a version of this proposed sharing agreement on December 20th, 2022. The agreement staff is recommending for council adoption does substantially conform to the version the county adopted, but does include what we would classify as non-material revisions in the language of the agreement, and which do not include the sales and property tax sharing amounts or percentages. So what we're proposing is entirely consistent with what the county adopted with respect to the sales and property tax sharing amounts or percentages. There is some language from the prior agreement that we would like to have added back in, removed by the county. There is some language in the county version and the prior agreement that we would like to have removed. So These are non-material amendments, things that have been covered to the greater extent through prior actions, and the resolution that staff is asking the council to adopt would grant authority to the city manager to negotiate those final non-material amendments with the county administrative officer prior to mayor's execution. So we'll go through just kind of some highlights and summary of the principal terms and stipulations of the agreement. With respect to property tax sharing, this agreement represents no change from the prior agreement. The county would retain all of its base property tax revenue upon annexation, and the city and county would split equally 50-50 any property tax increment within the said tax rate or geographical areas following the annexation. Again, this is same terms as what was in the prior agreement. With respect to sales tax sharing, the agreement does propose a 1.5% increase over the prior. That would amount to the city paying the county 4.5% of the city's 1% Bradley Burns portion of sales tax. Important to note, again, that is a 1.5% increase over the prior agreement, but still remains considerably lower than the preceding agreement to that, and what is actually still reflected in our ordinance. It was never updated to 6.75% that was previously agreed upon. So we've met in the middle on the sales tax sharing. Contributions for the Madera Branch Library, the city would continue to pay $50,000 annually for the improvements and operations in the Madera Branch Library. Again, that is a term with no change from the prior agreement. However, this new agreement does add an annual inflator based upon the consumer price index. So we would see an annual adjustment year over on the $50,000 to be paid to the library based upon the CPI referenced within the agreement. Criminal justice booking fees, the county will continue to not charge the city for booking fees as long as the state continues to reimburse the county for costs associated with booking inmates. This also reflects no change from the prior agreement. Should the state discontinue reimbursement to the county is authorized to request up to 50% of the booking fee costs from the city based upon quarterly invoicing. Law enforcement in Parkwood will continue to be provided by city police department. This is an unincorporated area of the city to which the city police department is currently providing enforcement services. This reflects no change from the previous agreement. Again, the agreement does not make Parkwood a part of the city. It will remain in the county, but to be served by city police department services. Urban development. The agreement also includes terms for how urban development occurs within the city's urban growth boundary and SOI. These terms of the agreement set forth rules for county referrals to the city. So if the county is approached by a development interest for lands within the city's urban growth boundary and sphere, but outside the city's incorporated limits, this section of the agreement sets forth the rules on how we collectively or collaboratively manage those projects or refer them. These terms essentially remain the same. A term was added into the agreement that the county, to the extent allowed by law, would condition any development within the sphere of influence to protect the ultimate planned road rights of way as set forth in city standards. It's important to note that the agreement does define urban development projects, those projects that would be referred by the county to the city within the urban growth boundary as essentially discretionary projects requiring county commission approval. So ministerial type applications that are within our sphere but outside our incorporated boundaries, those are projects which the county could proceed with. And this term helps to ensure the protection of city interests so that the county, to the extent legally allowed, can enforce our standards and protect our future ultimate rights of way interests. The agreement also recognizes and contemplates an amendment to the existing sphere of influence to expand the city's boundaries to the west and the southeast. Also important to note, this agreement does not change the sphere of influence. That would fall under the authority and jurisdiction of LAFCO and would require a general plan amendment and other policy considerations. So that will be an action subject to future City of Madera staff coordination and application to LAFCO requesting a sphere of influence change. This exhibit shows the two areas that were negotiated for inclusion and acknowledgement in the agreement. You can see these are some substantial areas of land with almost 3,000 acres out on the west side proposed to be included within the SOI expansion, and then another almost 2,000 acres within the southeast area, out Avenue 12 and extending down to Avenue 11. The effective term of this agreement is proposed to be 5 years with the possibility for 3 one-year extensions, total of 8 years possible. This is a change from the prior agreement, which had a term of 3 years and 2 one-year extensions for a possible total 5 years. And we did exhaust all 5 of those years within the prior agreement prior to its expiration. Staff is recommending the council adopt the resolution approving the tax sharing agreement between the city of Madera and the county of Madera, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement and authorizing the city manager to make non-material revisions or refinements as be needed to finalize the agreement. This concludes staff's presentation, and I am available to field questions.
Thank you, Will. Alicia, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
There's no one on Zoom and we have not received any written public comment.
Thank you. I will now close public comment for this item and ask for discussion from my colleagues. We have a question from Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mejia. I just would like to thank my colleagues who are on this tax sharing agreement committee. Long hours, long days, and thank the county for meeting with us on those long hours and days. A special thanks and a shout out to Will working with the county on completing the language here on this agreement. That's what we've been waiting for. So thank you, Will, for that hard work and the time allotted for that. That's all, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gallegos. Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I too wanted to echo Councilwoman Gallegos' comments there. I wanted to acknowledge the negotiating team for the city of Madera, Councilmember Montes, Councilwoman Gallegos, and myself, City Manager Arnoldo, Will, and other members of the staff. Want to appreciate you guys helping us through this process and making sure we get something that's equitable for both the county and the city. One important term that I did like is that what Will had mentioned, to the extent allowed by law. Obviously, that really helps us in at least having the county acknowledge that when we're looking to expand in that, or you're looking to build something within the sphere of influence, that you consider the city, because if that's a future expansion or a future annexation to the city, then, you know, we all work and we all synchronize and we all try to work together within similar codes. I know it's different with the county and the city, but I do appreciate the county's efforts and recognizing that. And again, I just want to give kudos to all those that participated again, and the city, more importantly, the city council, and adopting this tax sharing agreement. So with that, those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Seeing no other questions, I will now ask for a motion from my colleagues.
I so move to approve D2 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion to approve D2 as presented by Councilwoman Gallegos, second by Councilman Montes. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item D3, contract award for the renovation of the Cook Water Tower City Project number W-22 and W-34. And this presentation is by Steve Betancourt.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Madera City Council. My name is Steve Betancourt. I'm a senior civil engineer working in the city's engineering department. Let me share my screen. Can you see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm here tonight to present for the contract award for the renovation of the Lloyd Cook Water Tower, City Projects W-22 and W-34. Lloyd Cook is the name of the water superintendent in the early 1960s. The Lloyd Cook Tower was in December, the Lloyd Cook Tower, approved in City Council approved an agreement with the Baez and Patel Engineering Group, BPI. The consultant was required, as an engineering consultant, was required to perform field investigations and provide recommendations for structural upgrades to meet current seismic codes and the interior-exterior coating and paint recommendations. The options for tank improvements, BPI recommended that to preserve the tower for the next 40 to 50 years with the most minor or least maintenance, complete removal and replacement of the exterior paint should be done. An alternate option is to partially remove the exterior paint and overcoat the tank paint. This option results in a lower lifespan with potentially more maintenance. The scope of work for the renovation includes structural upgrades, which includes replacing bracing on the legs and tank. The interior would be abrasive blast to remove the existing coating and then recoat the interior surfaces with the 2-coat system. The sandblast all exterior paint, then repaint with a 3-coat system, and then remove and replace the existing 16-inch water supply line and valve, which has been a continual maintenance issue for Public Works. The Madera sign would be repainted in the same font, same size, and same color. We would limit the tank, and this is critical, is that we would limit the tank downtime from December 1st through December 28th. This time frame was selected because the demand on the tank is lowest and the least risk for the city to provide fire protection in the area. This slide just it represents some calculations that were done, some evaluations that were done on the demand on the tank based on gallons per minute for different months of the year. I think this data was taken in 22. And what this is really saying is the water supply is being provided by adjacent wells, and the demand in those wells is highest in July, primarily from watering lawns. And that demand is based on fire protection and domestic use. In the months of December, January, and February, the demand is lowest. The wells are not working as high and as hard, and meaning that they have a lot more capacity to provide fire protection in that area if an event were to occur. So those 3 months were a limiting factor on schedule, is why we're here tonight to get a contractor on board to start the work. The water would be drained from the tank during those months. The request for proposals on August 16th, 2023, the city released the projects for public bidding on Planet Bids web portal and the City of Madera Tribune. 2 bids were received. The bids were checked for accuracy against bidding requirements, validity of licenses, and bid security. The lowest responsive and responsible bid was from Unified Field Services in the amount of $2,920,732. I might mention that the availability of contractors for this specialized work is somewhat limited to more to the West Coast, not so much California. So we got 2 bids though. Here's a bid overview with United Field Services Corporation at $2,920,732, with Simpson Sandblasting at $3,274,431. The engineer's opinion of cost was $1,973,000. Now the question with that is, why did it exceed the engineer's opinion? What assumptions were made when the engineer's opinion of cost was made? The lowest bidder was $947,732 over the engineer's opinion of cost. What we discovered was that full scaffolding of the entire interior and exterior was not anticipated in the engineer's opinion of cost. Partial scaffolding and the hanging painter's chair were assumed to be the least expensive, but resulted in higher risk to the schedule and the downtime of the tank. Short time frame in which the tower can be drained is December 1st through December 29th, about a 3-month period. The risk of using a painter's table method was considered slower and riskier by the bidders to meet the schedule. The cost of the water line and valve replacement was substantially higher than the estimates we received from local suppliers. Here's some examples of what the tower is going to look like when the work gets done. It's going to look quite different for a while. The entire process is going to be about 180 days. So the entire interior and exterior will be scaffolded to do the work. That way they could keep multiple workers up there during the process. Project funding. The recommended budget for the construction phase is $3,482,805, which includes administration, testing, inspections, and contingencies. Funding is identified in fiscal year 2023-24 capital projects budget. Water utility funds, specifically the American Rescue Plan ARPA funds. The funds have a deadline of expenditure of December 2024. Additional funding is needed for the project in the amount of $604,078. The options before us: approve the contract that will result in the project moving forward this December and being completed in the first quarter in next year. We could extend the downtime more than 3 months, which may allow contractors the ability to use the hanging painter's table, but increases the risk for the city to provide fire protection in the area because the demand will be higher. Rebid the project. However, adding time to the tank downtime could reduce costs, but will increase risk for the city to adequately provide fire protection in the area. Increases maintenance on the tank over the next 40 to 50 years by using overcoating existing paint method with new paint method, and the project life or the life of the overcoating method is considered to be less. Recommendation: adopt a resolution approving the contract award for the renovation of the Cook Water Tower, City Project W22 and W34 in the amount of $2,920,732 to Unified Field Services Corporation, and a contingency of 10% of the contract amount, and also the CEQA Class 1 category exemptions, which is an existing facility. Adopt a resolution approving project funding amendments, appropriating $604,078 to the fiscal year 2023-24 capital projects. That concludes my presentations. If there's any questions that I could answer.
Thank you, Steve. Alicia, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
There's no one on Zoom and no written public comment, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I will now close public comment for this item, and I have questions from my colleagues. Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Steve, thank you for your presentation. So I know there was only 2 bids, but is it because this is a specialty type of project? Why only 2 bids when it comes to something like this? I mean, especially of a cost of this size.
The market for contractors that do this kind of work is limited. It's smaller than a general contractor. This type of work is specialized in the sense because it's inside a water tank, and there's special requirements for workers. There is requirements because of the paint and the sandblasting. The whole tower will be tinted, meaning it'll be covered like you'd see in a house. And there will be special ventilation requirements, special monitoring requirements, be full-time inspection be required, which the engineer is going to be providing, that understands the rules for this type of work. So it basically is not a lot of contractors to draw from, as opposed to like a painting contractor or something like that.
And then in your recommendation, we're requesting an additional 600,000 for any contingencies or amendments?
Yes, the budget was set up originally using the engineer's opinion of cost, which we consulted with our consultants with. And the assumptions were made to try to keep the cost down. But what drove it up was the fact that the full scaffolding was needed to meet the schedule because of the downtime of the tank.
Thank you. And just the last question, I'm assuming that this was already anticipated and we have this reserved for this maintenance, or, I mean, I know they're not, the integrity of the structure is okay, but you still have these specific improvements that need to be done, and that's already been allocated for this project, correct?
Correct. We were a little surprised the tank was as sound, I guess, for maybe words that meet current seismic codes, because the tank was built in 1962 and seismic codes were much different back then. So the amount of modifications are really just embracing.
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt. I have no other questions, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. I don't see any other, we have a question by Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just, I'd like to thank the team on the report. I did not know the tower was called Cook's Water Tower on behalf of a past employee who worked in the city for many years. If I'm not mistaken, it was 30-something years.
Right.
37, yes.
Yeah, Lloyd Cook.
Yes, so we honor him with the name on this water tower. So thank you for that history that I did not know. I appreciate it. That's all, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask for a motion for my colleagues.
I so move to approve D3 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Gallegos to approve D3 as presented, a second by Councilman Villegas. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. We will now move on to item E, administrative reports. Item E1 is the Riverview Park Playground Equipment Installation. Tenemos el servicio de traducción para los que gusten utilizarlo. Está disponible aquí una traductora. We have translation services available for this item, and you may request it if you need it.
What happened to my?
And this presentation is by Joseph Hubbard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go. What was that? Sí. Oh, It's with Marcela? Oh, yeah. Ella le va a interpretar. Marcela, si se puede acercar a Marcela, por favor.
Just sit with him.
Yes.
Y nuevamente, si hay alguien más que necesita servicios de traducción, puede acercarse a Marcela. Gracias.
Okay, I'll try to talk slow so we can, the New Jersey comes out of me sometimes and I want to talk fast. So Mayor Pro Tem, Council, guests, Joe Hebert, Parks and Community Services. This presentation is to give a summary of the Riverview Park Playground Equipment Installation. The Department of Transportation awarded the city of Madera $832,000 and $350,000 under the Clean California Local Grant Program. The goals of the Clean California Local Grant Program are to reduce the amount of waste and debris within public rights of way, pathways, parks, transit centers, and other public spaces. Okay. It's also to enhance, rehabilitate, restore, or install measures to beautify and improve public spaces. Also to enhance public health, cultural connection, and community placemaking by improving public spaces for walking and recreation. And then also, but most importantly, to advance the equity for undeserved communities. On January 19th, 2022, staff brought initial intent to apply for grant funds under the Clean California Grant Program. Grant applications were due February 1st, same year. Due to the selection of the Fresno River and Vernon-McCullough River Trail as the grant project site, staff sought grant components that would fit the grant intent and allowable purposes. One of the things we considered was litter abatement in the Fresno River. restoration of the Vernon McCullough Cross City Trail System, installation of exercise equipment in a section of the trail, removal of current trash bins and installation of new trash receptacles along the trail, okay, so I can go. Okay. Installation of playground equipment with the swing set at Riverview Park, which sits adjacent to the Fresno River. And then installation of educational signage and trail markers along the trail. Staff considered Riverview Park due to its proximity and location along the Fresno River and Vernon McCullough River Trail. The park does not have amenities. The park meets grant purpose of enhancing communities and improving space for recreation. Staff also took into consideration the limited playground equipment on the northwest side of town. There's no swing sets on the west side of town as well. You can see the lot that we considered right now. It's a vacant lot. It's designated as the Riverview Park, but you can obviously see there's no park there currently. So it's an open space. In the summer of 2022, the city was notified of being selected as an awardee of the grant. The team received the Clean California Grant Program team received 329 applications that sought over $758 million in grant funds. Awards were given to 105 projects, or approximately 30% of the received applications. The city of Madera was one out of the 329 submitted applications selected to be funded, being awarded the full requested amount of over $832,000. You good? Okay. In June of the same year, the restricted grant agreement was approved by council. This confirmed the grant components, including the River Park as a site for installation of playground equipment, and the performance period ends June 30th, 2024. Since then, staff has worked diligently to execute components of the grant, including purchasing playground equipment for the Riverview Park site. During the week of August 25th, staff received initial comments from residents in the Riverview Park neighborhood voicing opposition to the installation of the equipment. To further assess and address the concerns, the city manager and the park's community service director, met on site during the first week of September. On September 11th, we did a site visit with the Public Works, Electrical, and Facilities manager. On the 12th, we went out with an arborist and completed tree trimming and confirmed that there's a 100-year-old tree that's on the site. On September 20th, we did another site visit with the playground installer. And on the 25th, we conducted a neighborhood meeting at the park, which was attended by several council members as well. The comments that we received during this meeting, the neighborhood meeting, that were made in opposition of the playground include, but not limited to, the playground will bring unwanted noise to a quiet neighborhood. Some of the neighbors were not aware of the project. There were some concerns that it would the playground would increase the amount of trash left in the neighborhood. The playground would obstruct views of the river and the Route 99 and the fairgrounds, and the playground could potentially devalue homes. Some of the other things we heard was the playground will most likely cause visitors to the park in front of some of the residential homes in the area. Some of the other things were the playground would not be utilized as there are very few children in the neighborhood. The playground is an unwanted risk. The playground will bring additional out of the area people into the neighborhood. The playground will increase or attract activity in the presence of people who may be experiencing an unhoused situation. Comments in favor of the attendees The playground would increase the value of homes in the neighborhood. Having a playground increases the leverage of the police department to dedicate patrolling in the area, as any space designed for children is a priority to keep safe. A playground area is much better than a vacant lot area. Having a neighborhood park can be a valuable experience for neighborhood children to have access to a play area. The addition of a playground in the area would attract neighbors to get to know each other, which would build community where people know their neighbors and look out for one another. The addition of a playground would not either increase or attract additional illicit activity or the presence of family and people in general. This tends to drive that activity away. There is ample parking space along Riverview Drive on the park side of the street should visitors drive to the park, and parks make life better. Current park improvement plans include the following. We're going to installation of a 90 by 40-foot toddler lot play area geared towards ages 2 to 5, swing sets for ages 5 to 12, overall play area for which would encompass all of them 2 to 12 years old. And the swing set includes an inclusive swing set, and I'll show you a picture of what I mean later. The play area is going to consist of a safety perimeter fencing due to proximity to the street and the river area, so for safety concerns. And again, there's no restroom, picnic tables, or grills. Good. Okay. And here's a layout of what the park would look like. And you can see the toddler lot and the swing set. And this is a rendering of the exact structure that we're talking about. And again, this is geared for 2 to 5-year-olds. So it's definitely a tot playground. Here's the swing set that I was mentioning earlier. You can see the inclusive seat on the far left-hand side. And again, I just want to note there's not a lot of swings on this side of town. I hear this quite frequently from a number of people, including my boss, who keeps track of these things. Again, here's where the layout that we're looking at. When we first took on this project, actually, this was going to be reversed. We were going to have the swings on the left-hand side and the toddler lot on the right-hand side. But after talking to some of the neighbors, and we were very conscious of not obstructing their view, we moved the swing set, so which would be more diagonal, and the toddler lot, we moved the swing set to the right, toddler lot to the left. So we just did a switch. And actually, the toddler lot will be directly across from an alleyway and a garage from the resident who's directly across from this park. The financial impact of this is the equipment has been purchased in conjunction with the exercise equipment that we've installed on the trail for a total cost of over $247,000. The actual cost of the playground by itself is close to $90,000, $89,550. The city has already been fully reimbursed for the amounts that I mentioned. Additional costs to install playground equipment will we'll have additional costs for the perimeter fencing, and that'll be paid for with the balance of the grant. I guess the recommendation is not really a recommendation. We're asking for direction. So I'm giving you a lot of facts. I've been here a few times talking about this, and I know we've received a lot of comments from the public. And so that concludes my presentation if I have any questions.
Thank you, Joe. I will now. Councilman Montes has a question.
I just want to say thank you, Joe, and the staff that were out there taking the comments and calls, and I got some of them as well. My colleagues that went out there for the meeting, everybody else, I believe, Gabby was there. Was it Lieutenant Arnold was there? Everybody was out there to listen to the community concerns. And this is something that I met with the residents there. And I believe that we addressed a lot or all of the concerns that they have. One of the things I think it was in the staff report, I don't know if you mentioned here, was at that meeting, there was a bit of an informal poll run by some of the opponents to the equipment. And it was a majority that wanted the equipment there. So it's not only going to serve the people on that street, it's going to serve the surrounding community. So even after the meeting, some of the people who were opposed to it did reach out and say, hey, we really do appreciate you coming out. It's not that we don't want this completely. There are some issues we have with it. I mean, there was, I think, one person that didn't want it at all. But I think we did a really good job engaging it, and maybe it was my fault for not engaging initially a year ago in getting a poll. But again, as it's designated as a park, I'm always trying to advocate for amenities in my district. You know, sometimes people say, well, you know, it's the rich side of town, but I don't think so. I'm not rich. Again, we don't have any swings on that side of town. So I'm full favor. The accommodations that we have made, switching the park around, addresses a lot of the concerns that the people that were the most vocal had. So I really do appreciate everything that staff has done, and I'm in favor of, you know, moving forward. I mean, this is something that we actually, I think the council voted unanimously to approve about a year ago. So again, you know, that's on me to be a little more proactive in getting out in the community. But also it's an opportunity for the community to come out and engage with us a little bit more as well. This was a publicly noticed meeting. The information was out there, and it only became an issue once we started moving to actually install. Again, this is a really good grant, really good program. It's not just that, what we're getting from this grant. It's also litter removal, other improvements to the trail as well. So again, for me, and that's, you know, it's in my district. I think that we continue to move forward and you know, continue to improve the community, and hopefully the people that were opposed do get to know their neighbors and some of the kids. There are a lot of kids in that area. I don't believe that you're going to have a lot of people driving for the reasons that you mentioned, Joe. Don't have bathrooms, don't have picnic tables, so you're not going to get, and it's not a huge park. You're not going to get a lot of people coming across town to come there. It's going to serve some more of a local community park. So those are my comments, just in favor of moving forward with the plan, with the modifications, right? And installing that park there.
Thank you, Councilman Montes. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you try to provide that in Spanish for the benefit or... Oh, okay. Thank you. That was a lot and really fast, but
I'm sorry. I could have tried. I was not.
okay.
Very
I was
good.
gonna offer to help you, but all right. I see no other questions or comments from my colleagues, and there's no action, right? Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe. We will now move on to item F, council member reports, announcements, future agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for the mayor and council members to make brief reports on boards, committees, and other public agencies and at public events, to request updates, to initiate future agenda items, and to take actions on matters initiated under this section of the agenda. Under this section, the council may take action only on items specifically agendized and which meet other requirements for actions. We will start off with Council Member Evans.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to everyone that's here for all the reports that were given tonight, for all the hard work from the staff. And also on Saturday, we had the Old Timers Parade. Thank you, Chief. It was wet, but it was really a great activity, a great event. And there were a lot of people that came out, even though there was so much rain. So that was kudos to the entire city. Also, once again, I would like to say this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I salute those that have had the issue of breast cancer. My daughter had breast cancer, so it's near and dear to my heart. NAACP will be hosting a breast cancer awareness on October the 17th. So it's going to be at Burrito King. It's a Taco Tuesday. So everyone is invited out for that. You guys be safe going home. Watch out for each other. God bless you. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to do a shout out and continue Councilwoman Evans's shout out to the Old Timers Day Parade. Thanks staff for being out there bringing the fire engines and our police officers stopping traffic to make sure people were safe in their paths of crossing the street. And a shout out to Nick Salinas, who chaired the Old Timers Day Parade, and all the Rotarians that made this happen. One last thing is last weekend, my brother, who was Parks Director at Kerman for 37 years, got a park named after him. The Philip Gallegos Play Park in Kerman is now a legacy that our family will hold dear to our hearts. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Montes.
Congratulations to Philip. I also want to echo the sentiments of everybody. Thank you to staff. I feel like I say this every meeting. You guys have been dealing with me a lot. I'm not doing it intentionally. But again, thanks Joe for and everybody, all your staff, everybody that was out there for having that community meeting. Thank you also to Jamie at Public Works. He took care of a couple issues from the community, some concerns with roadways. So I really do appreciate that. And again, just thank you. I'll continue to do, like I said at the meeting, to do what's best for the community. And I'll also get better. Maybe we have the community meeting beforehand so people don't get so upset, but that's on me. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, I just wanted to also acknowledge the cancer awareness. Thank you, Councilwoman Evans and Councilmember Gallegos. I did want to bring up something here in regards to our earlier discussion, which was the salary adjustments. I had brought up a possible effort in exploring recruiting efforts to benefit some of our employees that we're looking to recruit for the city. I'll use some of the language that was used on the tax sharing agreement, which was to the extent allowed by law. So I would like to see if we may be able to explore recruiting efforts whereby the city would try to incentivize these employees by providing some benefit when it comes to either housing or something to retain not only the employee. At the end of the day, it's the bottom line, what's coming into their pocket. And we want to be sensitive to that. I do appreciate every employee, but I also want to make sure that we have a solution for a lot of these issues that we face every other year. I know the cost of inflation has really been hard on a lot of folks, so I'm very sensitive to that as well. But I'm also sensitive to our city and our constituency, our community, and how we can gain the best employees, offering them a really good recruiting package. So if there's something that we can explore, I'm not sure through legal counsel, if there's something that we can add out there, if this council would even entertain a possible consideration of bringing back something in the later agenda. I'm not saying this has to be done now, maybe early next year, but bringing something that can potentially help in recruiting our employees coming into the city. That would be my request. I'd also like to request to see if we can bring back our public health director, Sarah Boss, at least once a quarter, kind of give us an update on what's taking place. I know that COVID seems to be spreading out. It seems like everyone is now tolerant to that. No big deal, but every once in a while, it's good to know what's happening around our community. So it'd be good to bring her back here and there. But with that, those are my comments and my request. If this council would agree, then I would appreciate if we can have that agenda in the future. Thank you. And the details to that, Shannon, if you'd like, I can just kind of express some later on. You and I can get together and or a discussion that we can have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez. Councilmember Villegas.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to say thank you for all that presentation, all that proclamation, recognitions tonight. And thank you for the police force, for the event and the parade. Everything all right. We just got a little wet, but and also I want to say something. I have a couple of events. One is tomorrow early in the morning. One of the schools over here in Lily and Sunrise, and we have the walk on the 18 coming up too. So for the Sierra Vista School. So that's my comment, and thank you for everything. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Councilmember Villegas. It's been a very busy Hispanic Heritage Month for me. I had the opportunity to attend what's called the Chilena Festival, which has been organized by Mesa Directiva de Santa Maria Tindu. This is an event that is held every year, and it has grown exponentially since its beginning. There were residents from Oregon, from different parts of California, so I was very happy to be a part of that. The Mexican consulate also had their annual Grito celebration, and I was there in attendance. It was great to see everybody having a great time and also just honoring this special day for Mexican nationals living here in the United States. I attended the celebration at Sierra Vista Elementary. There were different agencies that were there presenting a variety of resources for our community. So I was happy to be a part of that. I was also invited to the Recovery Month celebration that was held by Madera County Behavioral Health Services, and that was held at Courthouse Park. And it created awareness about celebrating recovery from substance use, and mental health services were also there. And I would also like to reiterate the invitation that was made earlier during public comment in 3 different languages. I would really hope to see you at Madera's first Guelaguetza. As a member of the organizing committee, I have been able to witness just the enthusiasm that our community has had. There's so many ages represented in that group, and just the selfless sacrifice that people have made to be able to hold this event. And we are very grateful for the community support. So many people have come forward, many organizations, including the city, and thank you for that support. And we are very much looking forward to everyone being there on Sunday, October 8th. And that's all I have to report. And I understand, do you have a question, City Attorney?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, speaking of future agenda items, in coordination with the city clerk and the city manager, we learned that the Madera County Transportation Commission is going to be holding an event and a meeting on October 18th, which is the same night as our regular city council meeting. I know some of you sit on that board, and I know it's going to be difficult to be in 2 places at the same time. I also know that transportation is a very important issue for the community as well. So we wanted to reach out to you and kind of do an informal poll as to whether or not there's even going to be a quorum at the next meeting. So if you don't mind, if you are planning on attending on October 18th in here, not at the transportation, could you raise your hand? So I see one.
Time is up.
They're at the same time. So I only see one person, and we would need at least 4 people here in order to hold a meeting. So just as kind of a heads up, it appears to me there's not going to be a quorum for October 18th, which means that when the agenda, if it does come out, we'll just note that there's no items and everything will be heard at the next meeting. So we really won't be holding a regular meeting then. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, just to let folks know here, the California Transportation Commission has not held a meeting, so Madera County will be hosting them at the Madera County Superintendent's Office. This is going to be an opportunity, I think, in efforts with the city, MCTC, and even, I think, county to some extent. We've come together to showcase one of our pilot projects that we have, not only all the projects that were talked about here with transportation, but our downtown State Route 145 will be highlighted and showcased. They'll be walking down those streets to be able to show that's where they get the funding. That commission or that board is what drives the funding for Caltrans, again, for projects such as ours. So it'll be an important meeting, especially the fact that it's being held here in Madera. So any of you that can attend those meetings and or the receptions that they're having, greatly appreciated in support of the transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. I will now ask our city attorney to make the closed session announcement.
Thank you, Mayor. Did the city clerk talk to you by any chance before I announced closed session? Was that good? For the public comment? Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and make the closed session announcement right now. There's one item for closed session, that is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9A. One case, Madera Police Officers Association, Randall Williams, Thomas Burns versus the City of Madera, NCV 088246. Thank you.
I just remembered, can we go back to that? I'm so sorry.
You can ask your protocol.
Yeah, can we have the public comment?
On item number F, or
Yes.
item number E, I'm sorry, E1, public comment?
Yes.
All righty.
Almost forgot again. When he was doing his report, she came and told me.
Ok. ¿Eso? Ah, ok, mi comentario era acerca del parque. Es muy buena idea, pero es demasiado grande lo que quieren poner ahí. Y tenemos mucha vida salvaje alrededor del río y yo creo que deberíamos de cuidar esa vida salvaje que tenemos ahí en vez de poner algo que va a costar demasiado. Y porque casi niños no hay adolescentes, pero casi niños no van ahí. Mucha gente mayor va ahí a caminar. Lo que necesitamos son bumps para que no vayan tan rápido y esa gente que camina con sus perros, que anda en bicicleta con sus hijos, que pasean a la viejita que cuidan, porque hay personas que cuidan a personas mayores y las llevan ahí al parque y las ponen a ver la vista, que es muy bonita. Es muy silencioso y nos gusta porque yo vivo enfrente, porque tenemos fines de semana súper ruidosos porque está el car speed. Y pues a veces es 2 veces a la semana y cuando no hay ruido pues sí descansamos. Y el último 4 de julio los vecinos de enfrente tuvimos que limpiar todo lo que es el parking porque dejaron sus cositas de fireworks, las personas que fueron a pasar el tiempo ahí. Otras personas hizo un party ahí y mi esposo y el señor que estaba hablando estuvieron recogiendo la basura. Y lo que no queremos es de que vaya mucha gente ahí y esté tirándola, porque es muy fácil tirar la basura al río. Es muy fácil. Yo he visto la gente. Y pues los vecinos tratamos de mantener limpio ahí. Entonces, sí, es buena idea, pero no es necesariamente que pongan uno así de grande. Podrían poner tal vez unos columpios y una resbaladilla, creo que sería suficiente. No necesitan algo tan huge. Mejor invertirlo en conservar la vida salvaje que tenemos ahí, que Madera tiene el privilegio de tenerla, así como el condado de Merced. Si algún día tienen tiempo de ir a caminar por el río de Merced, vean qué bonito está. Encuentran mucha diversidad de animales. Les digo porque yo tuve que llevar a mi hijo un año manejando a las 5 de la mañana a la Universidad de Merced y como salía temprano me quedaba a dormir en el parque. Entonces lo que yo aprovechaba caminar, leer, lo que fuera, para estar ahí el tiempo necesario. Y veía toda la diversidad de animales salvajes que hay ahí. Y aquí en Madera tenemos mucha. Y tenemos muchos lugares, como por ejemplo, la punk que está ahí por la bridge, donde vienen los goose. Ahí también necesitaríamos arreglar ahí. Y les digo por los parques, porque los parques normalmente, Melview.
Disculpe si puede, por favor, empezar a concluir. Es que estamos sobre tiempo.
Sí. Entonces yo creo que deberíamos de gastar más en lo que realmente necesitamos.
Gracias.
So I'll just provide a really quick translation. In summary, what she's indicating is that the idea in and of itself is not a bad idea. Her concern is that maybe the equipment is too large for that space and is hoping for something smaller. And additional concerns are the potential amount of trash that can come into the area as a result of the installation of the equipment. She referenced holidays such as 4th of July, where people do come into the neighborhood, and she and other residents have had to cross the street and clean it up. She highly encourages consideration of maintaining the wildlife in the area and as well. And though she's in favor of parks, thinks that that's very important. Algo más, señora?
Speed bump.
So-
She wanted a speed bump.
And the speed bumps. Yes, she also referenced speed bumps because there's a lot of noise in that area. There's times that she gets a lot of noise, and so the idea of installing playground equipment, they are concerned that that will increase the noise level, and they already have to deal with some of that as it is.
Thank you. Gracias. You have to do it?
So if the chair is so inclined, we can go back to item G1 and public comment on item G1, which is closed session.
Okay,
We have no written and no one on Zoom.
okay. So you will now take us into closed session? Okay.
So we're adjourning into closed session right now.
Okay. It smells really good.
What is?
The hand sanitizer.
Oh. These are these specifically for us to take home?
No. No, no,
I
no.
already put it in my bag.
Fill up my little bottle. So I'm
I
here.
don't want these. Am I the only one that keeps getting like these letters?
No, I'm
That's
just
what
kidding.
we're doing now?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What did you show?
Okay, I hereby reconvene the Madera City Council open session at 9:33 PM. City Attorney Shannon Chaffin, may we please have the closed session report?
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. There was no reportable action taken in closed session.
Thank you. I will now adjourn this meeting at 9:33. The next meeting will be on Wednesday, November 1st, 2023 in City Council chambers. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, it was.